Good morning, everyone. How y'all doing today? It's rather early in the morning, but I guess I didn't get up early enough because we already have sun on our front garden. Today I wanted to give you a tour. We are a little bit late, well, a little, almost by a month. I normally do this in June, but I was waiting for the Agapanthus to bloom, and in me waiting for those to bloom, other things were finished blooming. If you happen to hear dog barking in the background, I apologize. They are our neighbor's dogs, so I'm not sure if it picks up, if the mic picks it up, but I want to just apologize in advance. It is the first week of July. We just came off of July 4th, and most of everything in my garden has pretty much bloomed. We've had our David Austin roses over here to the side. Those have given 2 large flushes of blooms. You can tell I didn't deadhead those last night. I meant to do that. But they just, if something has already bloomed, I will see if I can post a photo of what it looks like when it is in bloom. These will probably give an occasional bloom throughout the summer and probably come back again and start blooming more when the weather cools off, because we have really extreme heat here in Central California. You can tell right along the edge here, I have dahlias and they're all coming along. I think a couple of them have buds on them already. And I know some of you guys probably already have your dahlias blooming, but I don't have that quite yet. In the front here of our border, I have Serenity purple African daisies. I've already cut them back for the season, but for some, look at, you can tell these are my largest ones. And probably because our yard slopes, they're all blooming right now. They probably won't really bloom heavily again until the weather cools off. In front here, I have Salvia. If you guys know what's going on with it, please put it in the comment section. Can you tell I have no leaves at the bottom? I'm not sure why that is. I thought about taking them out. I thought about pruning them all the way back, but they did give a real pretty show of purple early spring. If you look at the garden from this vantage point, you can see that I have cherry, or is it what they call it? Profusion bicolor cherry zinnias. They go from a dark purple to a pale pink to white. And I wanted to do yellow all the way down the border, but I couldn't get my hands on enough of them, so you'll see yellow up at the top and cherry down here at the bottom. I have 5 I have 5 geranium plants here, and I think I want to retool this flower bed a little bit. The daylilies are done blooming and those are orange. They were here when we bought the house 20 years ago, and I've thought about pulling a couple of geranium plants up, pulling the daylilies, and just retooling this flower bed just a bit. The geraniums begin blooming early March, and they are probably my longest blooming shrub that I have. And once they stop blooming, again, due to the heat, they'll just kind of take a lull and they will put out occasional blooms, and then back when fall comes, they will start blooming again a little bit more heavily. I have 6 red fountain grass in our front garden. They are low maintenance, they give a beautiful color and beautiful texture. I think it's a great addition to my garden, and I absolutely love having them here. The Society garlic is doing exactly what I wanted it to, just for it to, you don't know where one begins and the other one ends. It's a good contrast against the red and the bright green that I have in here. Right here on either side of the Agapanthus, I have from Monrovia Grace and Grit rose. It's a pale, pale yellow rose. Again, sorry, it's already bloomed 2 times, given a really beautiful, it's a very, very pretty flower. And I picked those up on clearance this last fall, I think I did. Up here, I have Plumbago, and it's a little woolly, wild. I've seen this all over town, and it's more in a shrub look. And I don't know why mine looks so leggy. I really do like this shrub, but I just don't know why it's performing that way when I go to these homes that are off of Van Ness, which is a beautiful street in our town, and they're just really nice tight shrubs. So I wonder if it has something to do with pruning them, keeping them pruned back. I just wanted to keep them leggy like this so you could actually see the color of the bloom. A few seasons ago, we planted 2 evening rose hibiscus from proven winners, and this year I added a 3rd one. The good news, bad news with the last one is it went into shock. Now, it had been only a couple of days, and I don't know if it's because we had such extreme heat, but the good news is you see all the brand new growth coming up. And I know it's going to be okay. It's just not as pretty as these look. I will put the picture up of these blooming yesterday, but you can tell I have a bunch that are getting ready to bloom. Okay, I have 2 great success stories. My first one is I have petunias. Petunias that look really pretty. Now you can tell I need to cut them all back because they're getting leggy and they're not quite as full right here. However, of course, it doesn't help that the sprinklers came on earlier this morning and it's weighed them down a bit. But I spray them every week with BT. I fertilize them every week. I think because they are in the shade the majority of the day and only get a little bit of sun, I think that's why I've had great success with these. I don't think here where we live, petunias can take full sun all day. So I'm really happy that these are doing really well. Okay, let's come over here. The Let's Dance Blue Jangles hydrangeas, I am so happy to report that they are doing very well. I was a little nervous if I could be successful with hydrangeas right here in this corner, but so far, so good. And I want to say that if you happen to have watched the video where I planted them, there is drip, and in addition, I added a 5-gallon-per-hour emitter behind each one. I probably wouldn't suggest that for everybody. Today we're having an unseasonably cool day, and what I mean by that, it's going to be 93. Next week, we will have a series of days that's 106, 108, and we just came off of a week where we had a lot of those harsh temperatures, and these did amazing. The Dianthus gave probably their best show early spring. I cut them all back, and you can tell they're starting to bloom again. This was one of the best things I think I've ever planted. And so I think I only lost 1 or 2 a season ago. You can tell, look at this, guys. These Agapanthus get so big that they cover them. So what'll happen is when the season is done, come winter, these kind of shrink up. They're not quite as big anymore, and then you'll be able to see the Dianthus. The coneflower that we just recently planted, they are all in bloom. Look how amazing they look. They're so beautiful. I want to go and buy more. I want to plant more of them. I want to also let you know that down in the description area, I will list my plants, as many of them as I can, and the zone for each of them. I think Agapanthus is only zone 9 to 11, if I'm not mistaken. As these blooms age, they begin to drop down, and you'll see that in another flower bed here pretty soon, because those were the first to bloom. The bees, the hummingbirds, they all love this plant. I see them on here all the time. A lot of swallowtail butterflies. More butterflies this year than I've ever seen. And then my other success story is, I will be the first to admit, my Limelight Prime is not very large, but guys, I think I found the perfect spot for it. It has multiple blooms, and I am hoping that now that I finally found the right spot, that each year it'll get just a little bit bigger. So this is an exciting moment for me, because I've had this for a couple of years, and then this is the first time it's bloomed for me, other than when I first purchased the plant. Over here is a flower bed, or an area of our flower bed that I need to rework. Love the Sunshine Ligustrum, keeping those. The two, I think I have actually three. These are right here. Let me step in. These are Adagio grasses. And I have never, ever separated them, or divided them, I should say, rather. And they need a good division this next fall, this coming fall. They're just, they look like monsters. They're just a little too big. And this, again, for those of you who watch from California and all the rain that we had, I did not think these would come back. Of course, you can see the snails and the earwigs have gotten to them. But I thought the Rockin Fuchsia Salvia were dead. And lo and behold, they are not. Normally, by now, these Salvia are easily above my knee. I'm just glad they came back. This is probably the third season I've had them. And I remember I landed up throwing one away by the Avondale, and I should have kept it. And then here's one of my other last little success stories of my petunias being alive. This is the European cypress that we planted a few months ago. It's pushed a little bit of growth. But I'm just so happy to actually have some petunias. This is the first season I've had them for this long. So for those of you who can grow them all the time, I'm a bit jealous. This flower bed is going to see a big difference this year. The only thing that we did differently is we added more Japanese forest grass. I am so glad we did that. I love this plant. Very difficult plant to find. More and more nurseries are beginning to carry Hakanakloa, also known as Japanese forest grass. There are a couple different varieties here, and I'm okay with that. What has happened is you can tell the difference between my lemon ball sedum and the other sedum that I planted. Could not find lemon coral, could not find lemon ball, and the only kind of sedum I could find was trailing, and I just do not care for that at all, because it trails. It doesn't get bushy, and like it doesn't grow into a mound. So I have a feeling, I think I'm going to just pull all this up and start with something else to line the border of this area with. If this flower bed doesn't look quite as tidy as the rest of my flower beds, we had a squirrel that was dying. I don't know if somebody put some poison out, because we've been finding a few squirrels that are not well, unless they're diseased. I'm not sure, but we have found a few field mice that are that have passed. Anyway, he was in here, and every time I went to try and move him, he would get skittish, and I didn't want to touch him. So I just thought, well, I'm going to leave this whole flower bed alone. So I didn't trim the sedum. I didn't deadhead some of the stuff that I should have, and you'll probably see some redwood needle leaves in this area as well. But that is why. And even this morning, he was still alive, but he was at least at a point where my husband could move him. And I just wanted to let you know that's why it doesn't look quite as tidy as it normally does. Over here, you'll see where all the Agapanthus are beginning to lay out. It's kind of a nice look, but at some point, you can see right here, they're just all like laying straight down. And I'm not going to cut them just because they're laying down. I'll still keep the blooms. And what'll happen is, of course, you know, you'll see these haven't even opened yet, but once these bloom, it'll just be a stick. So it'll look just like that. And when all the blooms are gone and it just looks like little sticks, that's when I'll come in and cut them all off. And then patients are doing really well. You can tell this is, it's one of the few spots I can plant in patients. It's one of my favorite annuals. It is probably not quite 7 a.m. It can take morning sun here in our heat, and for the rest of the day, this whole area is shaded. And that's probably why I'm successful with them. I wish this area could be full of petunias. Those are such a beautiful annual. However, I have found the only thing that works best for us are vincas and zinnias, and I think my favorite are the zinnias. I found these at Lotus Garden, so if you're local to Fresno County, they had flats and flats of solid color zinnias. Most nurseries will carry the combination colors, and those can be pretty, but they are heavily on the orange and the yellow. They have a little bit of pink and a little bit of white, but I really wanted the pink. So these are bicolor cherry profusion zinnias, and I come through every now and then and deadhead. Let's see if I can find one here. So this is an old one, and every now and then I'll come through and I'll deadhead these. I don't think you have to, but I do, only because I just enjoy being out here in my garden. And the more you deadhead them, the thicker they'll grow. By the end of the season, they'll be spilling out onto our walkway and probably a little bit onto the grass. I'll try and keep them trimmed up from the grass as much as I can. But I have always had great success growing these in our heat. We have long summers. They typically start in May and can run all the way through October. I should have done this at the beginning of the video. My name is Deanne. I live in Fresno, California. That's the central part of the state. We're less than 80 miles from Yosemite. So we can get really cold, well, cold for us. Not really for me. I enjoy the cool weather. My husband, not so much. We can sometimes drop in the winter to about 28. Not that often. Lots and lots of 30s. But our summers are intense. They're very, very extreme. And I just wanted to touch on real quick. Our area, well, at least the city of Fresno, has had strict water guidelines for several years now. So some of my plants do okay. Some of them don't do so good. We are only allowed to water 3 times a week, and we can only have it on during certain times of the day. So there's a block of time where you're not even allowed to turn your water on. They monitor it. I accidentally was watering something. I don't know what I was thinking, but I wasn't doing it on purpose, and we got a letter saying, you watered on a day that you shouldn't have been. So since then, we have gotten a sprinkler system that keeps better track and is electronic, so I don't ever stray outside those guidelines. But I just wanted you to know that I can't water like a lot of other people can. Since winter has passed, we have not received any rain. No spring rain, no summer rain, no rain. So I do the best I can with the water that we're allowed to use. sometimes gardening in this heat with our lack of water presents challenges, but I'm willing to work around those. Gardening is something I enjoy so much, and it's brought so much goodness to my life and to my family's life, and we enjoy being in our back garden. Even the neighbors who walk up and down the street say this was part of my most favorite walk of the day, is passing by your house, and gives me a chance to talk to neighbors when we're out here too as well. I appreciate you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the tour, and I hope you have a cool summer, not quite so hot. You guys have a wonderful week, and we'll see you soon. Bye.